It's the Lionel Rundown.
Okay, so it is time for your war report. Not much going on actually on the war front, which I consider to be good news, to be honest, but I did find some very interesting things to talk about because it was kind of a slow news day in general, which we do love because, you don't want the world to blow up, but you are going to like, I think, these stories that I found today. So first of all, for your war report, again, no major direct U.S. and Iran exchange of strikes. It hasn't escalated again. I do know that a U.S. military helicopter reportedly, allegedly fired on a commercial ship that they say was violating part of their blockade. Of course, they're not trying to have ships go to or from Iranian ports. But other than that, it's kind of run-of-the-mill, same old, same old. No Strait of Hormuz agreement, no nuclear talk breakthrough, because that's like on the back burner at this point. Iran is still saying they have all these demands. Pakistan is still trying to mediate, but that's where they have that. So what I think is more interesting is that this is uniquely terrible for our servicemen and women who are on the USS Abraham Lincoln. They are actually the focus of today's war report. Because if you believe their family members, a lot of them are doing terribly on this ship. And some of them are reportedly suicidal at this point. And I want to be clear about this, why I'm reporting this specifically, because in a sick way, I do understand that this is what Iran would want to be spreading, right? How demoralized our troops are and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I do think this country is asking a lot of our troops. We always ask a lot of our troops, and they deserve for people to know what they're going through. So this was a report that just came out. I would want my fellow Americans to know and care if this were me and this were my mom or my family members trying to get some answers here. So here's what's being reported. The families of the sailors on the USS Abraham Lincoln had a meeting with Navy leadership where they're said to have confronted them and pressed them for answers because they say this deployment has been grueling on the sailors and there just doesn't seem to be an end in sight. So again, the USS Abraham Lincoln, so we're on the same page, is an aircraft carrier. It carries roughly 5,000 sailors and Marines when it's fully deployed. They launch fighter jets, helicopters. It's over 1,000 feet long, which is more than like 3 football fields. So it's basically a tightly packed floating city. And a lot of them are in their late teens and early 20s. So 18, 19, early 20s. So again, I kind of look at this as basically being like college, except you're fighting a war. You know what I mean? So of course there are older senior officers and doctors on board as well. But some of them are dang near straight out of high school. So these are the guys who are fighting our war right now. And by guys, I mean men and women. And at this point, their families say they're exhausted, that they're working 12 to 16-hour shifts with little to no days off. They've reportedly dealt with broken toilets, mildew in the showers that at times did not have hot water, shortages of soap, shortages of toothpaste, shortages of deodorant, broken or backed up laundry, which is a fun little sprinkle on top of not having toothpaste or soap or deodorant. At one point, they say the laundry couldn't be done for more than a week. Imagine that on this tightly packed little city. And for the cherry on top, there have reportedly been food shortages. Apparently, supplies stretched really thin, and it was hard to restock during the fighting. So this right here is older video. This is kind of just giving you an idea of what it should look like, what it usually looks like. I think it's from 2018. So you can see how packed in their quarters are, and honestly, how young some of them look. But we can show you the food pictures that started going around earlier this year, back in April. The Navy would not confirm the specifics. They would not confirm or deny whether this was real. In fact, there was kind of some controversy with that about, whether this really came from the USS Abraham Lincoln or a different USS, ship, aircraft carrier ship. So the point is, this is the general idea of what these families claim the food situation is. So the ship's store that they have reportedly has had hour-long waits. The mail and the care packages their families have tried to send aren't reaching them because of the supply chain issues, because they're at war. And the families got very specific. One sailor's family reportedly messaged their family. One sailor reportedly messaged their family saying, "Our mental and physical health is in danger. We need help." One spouse cried and told the officials, so say this report, that her husband messaged her that same day that they were talking that he hopes he doesn't wake up tomorrow. One parent said her son and some shipmates regularly talked about jumping overboard just for some relief, was the quote. Sailors told reporters that one crew member was actually stopped from jumping overboard several months ago. Another family said that there's a ship doctor or therapist on board that says that these people need a port visit before these people start losing their minds. These guys have been deployed since last November 2025. They thought they were just doing a 7-month deployment in the Pacific. They got redirected to the Middle East in January, and it's been extended just past when they thought they would be gone. They thought they were going to be done in May. Here we are in August. There's no confirmed date yet. And in all of this time, they've reportedly only been able to get off the ship twice. Once was last December, and then not again until last month, July. So in a typical deployment, you'd get off the ship every 30 to 45 days. These people went 208 days straight without getting off that ship. And when they did get off, it wasn't like they can move around freely. They were reportedly kept in a restricted area and then had to get back on the ship. So the Navy did actually acknowledge the family's concerns here. And it does seem like the worst of the issues have been improved at this point. The vice admiral they were talking to admitted that the situation was extremely bad for a little while and is still not good, but there have been some improvements. So again, the USS Abraham Lincoln is supposed to be getting out of there at some point. In fact, the USS Theodore Roosevelt is supposed to go relieve them so that crew can go home. It's reportedly being prepared for that right now, but so far they haven't said when that's going to be. So I went to the comment section on this and it was surprisingly split. Some people were shocked to hear this. Trump Must Fail said, horrific treatment of those sent to put their lives on the line to protect ours. And, you put Trump Must Fail in the name, so I don't know, it must be kind of biased. But other people were not buying these reports actually at all. Actually, one more person who was pretty supportive of the troops and the families were saying. Rob Glenn said $1 trillion a year for defense, and we have no capacity for war. You politicians must be stealing it all. And that's not a bad point because we give you guys a lot of money for war. What do you mean these guys don't have food? These guys should be treated like kings for how much we spend on the military. And so that's what takes us to the other people who were just kind of weren't buying these reports. Travis Dell said, sounds like any of the 5 deployments I did in the Army. And I don't believe any of this is serious. Another commenter said, as a Navy vet, I can say there is no cleaning contractor on a warship. The enlisted crew clean the ship spaces every day. Cleaning and repairs on, everything is supposed to be done by them. He thinks this is Democrat BS, and he says if it's not up to standard, they need to clean it. I don't know. Were you at war when you were saying about cleanliness? Because they actually have wartime responsibilities to be doing, so I hear. Now, Fox G said, so many dumb comments here. I've done 9 months on board. Believe me, you can't function intelligently anymore. After 6 months, you start acting like a robot. You find yourself in places on the ship and wonder how you got there. The psychological pressure is immense, even during peacetime. So I thought that was very fascinating to hear what our sailors have been going through. And I'm sure a lot of these guys have been kind of dealing with some kind of degree of discomfort. So I personally want to say, thank you for your service. And again, I will say, take this as you will, this reporting. It came from Stars and Stripes. That is a military newspaper. It's partly funded by the Pentagon. So I believe these families when they say that. So we will just have to see what happens. And hopefully they are able to get replaced soon. In the meantime, do you remember when we reported that the Haitian immigrants were basically going to be getting kicked out in the thousands pretty soon because hundreds of Haitians lost TPS. They lost temporary protected status and they were at risk of getting hunted down and deported basically. Well, a lot of them came here legally again after the earthquake devastated Haiti back in 2010. But the Trump administration has been feeling like temporary didn't mean forever and that it's now time for them to go. So actually, the Trump administration did decide to let some of these Haitians have a bit of control over their fate here, specifically in Springfield, Ohio, where there is a large Haitian community of about 15,000 people. And even the Republican leadership there in Ohio have said, you kind of can't just kick all these people out at once. This is going to screw the economy. So these guys were given an option. First of all, actually, they were told to go turn themselves in to the ICE office. Obviously. So hundreds of Haitian immigrants around Springfield, Ohio got letters telling them to go report to the ICE office with their immigration documents. And then they were given an option, and that was to either accept $2,600 and get out of the country or put on an ankle monitor. So about 50 people showed up for their appointments with ICE a couple days ago, July 31st. None of them chose the money, so they all got ankle monitors. And one man we can show you was honestly devastated about this. He collapsed to the ground crying when he had to put his ankle monitor on. Now, I will say some people thought this was a stunt. But he was crying. Reportedly said that he came to America back in 2023 fleeing danger in Haiti. They wouldn't tell him how long he had to wear this, so he was really sad about it. To make matters even sadder, one day there were demonstrators out there singing "We Shall Overcome" or something similar, and we could show you that. They don't sound bad, I will say. Whether the singing solidarities, I don't know what that just said, but yeah. So they're singing, they're protesting on their behalf. They're basically saying you guys are welcome here. They're standing outside where they're going to their ICE appointments. So the comment section is pretty split. I will say, per usual, because our country is always pretty split. Some people liked this crackdown. In fact, Tracy Turner Stinner said, "Sorry, not sorry. Temporary means don't get comfortable because you aren't staying. Deport them all. Make accountability great again." In fact, I think I saw one commenter that felt like this is not going far enough with the ankle monitors. Red Devil said this is just more proof the administration is no better or different than Biden or Obama. All a show, not going to really deport enough to matter. They want literally all these people gone. And obviously, there was a contingent of people who pointed out that man who had cried had a translator, and Matt's saying he couldn't even learn English. Speak the language of the country you want to stay in. I've heard that argument a few times. Other people were not on that same wave. Some people thought that was pretty cruel. Eliza said treating people like dogs is unconstitutional. Melanie should get one too. She's probably talking about Melania Trump because she's not American. Steph Bennett said immigrants are human beings, not criminals by default. Placing ankle monitors on people solely because of their immigration status, whether they're Haitians or immigrants anywhere else in the country, is deeply dehumanizing. So, that's what we have for the comment section. Their lawyers thought, maybe can we do something that's less restrictive, maybe like daily facial recognition or maybe something they can wear on their wrist. But this is the way that they are doing it. And honestly, the bigger problem is that the monitors reportedly restrict travel to a 75-mile radius, and Ohio's immigration court is like 188 miles away in Cleveland. So these Haitians literally have to go get ICE permission just to go to their own court hearings. But I will say, I would choose the monitor over detainment, boy. The ankle monitor, far and away over being detained in an ICE facility. Those ICE facilities sound like Hades. 52 people have died in ICE custody since Trump took office. I would not want to go there. I would not be crying about that. But ICE is also going after the people who are not voluntarily complying. Actually, in Maryland, witnesses are saying Haitians are just being snatched up while they're driving, going to the grocery store. One organizer said that they've just seen cars left at the gas stations with the engines running. Families saying, the relative went grocery shopping and never came back. So they are definitely going after these people. And we will let you know what ends up happening with that. I will say before I move on, because it is worth pointing out, the U.S. is trying to send them back to a country where our own State Department tells Americans not to travel to. They have Haiti on a level 4 do not travel advisory for widespread kidnapping, terrorism, armed violence, and severely limited health care. And it tells Americans who travel there to prepare a will and a proof of life plan. So I don't know, if someone's got a criminal record, I could see sending them back there. But the upstanding citizens going back to that, it's cold, cold world, man. Cold world. Now, I did hear the argument that even the upstanding citizens could go back or should go back to Haiti and help build their nation back up. All feelings are valid here. I'm not here to tell you what to think. But I am here to tell you the news and the drama while we're talking about immigrants that has to do with Republican Nancy Mace. She is a representative and she has the people talking, appalled, pissed, upset, happy, thrilled, all of the emotions because this is America. We don't agree on anything. She decided she wanted to make some headlines and came after Muslims who were in office. A couple days ago, she randomly tweeted on X saying every single Muslim holding public office in America, and we can show you that X post, is a Trojan horse and a threat to both national security and our republic. We refuse to be silent. So, of course, then Democrat Representative Pramila Jayapal was aghast, horrified, shocked, appalled, upset. And she said, this is absolutely disgusting and dangerous. Republicans must denounce this blatant Islamophobia to Muslim communities across America. I will always stand with you. And Nancy Mace doubled down. She said she's right. I don't want to get stabbed or blown up by a suicide bomber, nor do I want to hear the call to prayer 5 times a day in the United States of America. Total Islamophobe here. there are people in this country who feel like this. So, we're all just talking here about the state of the country. Nancy Mace even went on CNN and defended her comments. And here's what she said.
Parades that are happening. I look at the women who are covered head to toe with little slits for their eyes. As a woman, that's scary.
But you're not
to me.
being,
that's
not being forced on you, Congresswoman.
All across the country.
But that's not being forced on you to do, Congresswoman. It's not happening at a congressional legal level.
A 6-year-old girl doesn't get a say on whether she should wear a hijab or not. I mean, this is very,
up to a family's decision on how they govern their kids.
American culture.
The First Amendment is pretty clear on freedom of religion. Article 6 also, no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office.
American culture. We have Christian foundations as a nation, and this does not.
That's your opinion. The First Amendment disagrees that it needs to stay that. If someone wants to express their religion, it's right there as number one in terms of the Constitution.
Then go back to that country is all I have to say. Go back to that country of origin. It doesn't need to be here. I think we should ban all immigrants from those countries. Thank you.
So, obviously, the comment section went off about this, and some people were horrified. So, CB Michaels says, we shouldn't even entertain this BS. I'm reading a book about World War II. Sounds eerily familiar. She needs to, I'm trying to cuss on this show. Don said, this hysteria doesn't work anymore. Boomers using the same tactics from 40 years ago when media isn't centralized anymore. I wouldn't be so sure about that because she definitely had some supporters. Steve Miles said she's not wrong. Look at Iran. Young people think Iran has always been Muslims with burqas. It hasn't. Muslims came in and took it over. Same happening in England and Europe. I don't know about England and Europe right now, but that is definitely what happened in Iran. Also, we had Dylan Butler saying, thank you, Nancy Mace. Millions appreciate your movement to move Islam back where it belongs, out of America. She had support now. Now, part of what triggered Nancy Mace is possibly that Abdul El Sayed, a Muslim, just won to become the Democrat candidate for senator in Michigan. Remember that? He beat Haley Stevens, who had almost $65 million spent on her campaign. Ironically, a huge chunk of that came from the pro-Israel super PAC. They spent almost $30 million alone. But Abdul still won. And Mace is saying, if there are more Abduls and more Zohran Mamdanis, who's the mayor of New York, we're going to have a bunch of politicians who entertain radical Islam ideology. Now, what I think is most interesting about all this is that this is new for Nancy Mace. Back in 2021, Nancy Mace stood up for Ilhan Omar after a fellow Republican, Lauren Boebert, said that Ilhan might be a suicide bomber and said she was on the jihad squad. Back then, Mace said, that's racist, that's disgusting. Same year, she said politicians' words could put people in danger and everybody needed to lower the temperature. Back then, Marjorie Taylor Greene hopped on and accused Nancy Mace of supporting Islamic extremism for criticizing Lauren Boebert. So she was on the side of people who didn't want to talk like that. 5 years later, she's been attacking Ilhan Omar. She said Ilhan married her brother to get immigration status and that she should be deported. Now wants to say people who come from those Muslim praying countries should not be able to be allowed here. I mean, what an about face. Everybody can change. I do know everybody can change, but I do wonder if this is in part because she needs more political attention right now. Because there are people in the U.S. who do feel like this. I'm not discounting that. I get it. It is what it is. But Lindsey Graham's sister was just given the position she was hoping for. Lindsey Graham's sister has no experience. Trump is even endorsing this lady. So I don't know. Maybe she just wants to do something splashy to get on the chessboard. Just what an about face. And speaking of about face, we got to keep this really quick and dirty. Did you see Tucker Carlson and Hunter Biden doing a little interview together? So Tucker had him on the show and it was surprisingly cordial. I don't think that I saw this coming for 2026 because Tucker went in on Hunter Biden for years. 4 years. Tucker used to call Hunter basically a pedo because of the laptop situation. And if you don't remember that, this is important for this conversation. Back in 2019, Hunter Biden had a damaged laptop that he left at this repair shop. He never went back for it. Repair shop owner ends up giving that to the FBI and giving that to Trump's people. They blast that all over the news. And there was a claim in that report that there was child pictures and photography on the laptop. And Tucker helped peddle that narrative for a long time. And so they end up talking about this. And it's how Tucker said it happened that has everybody talking. Listen to this.
The allegation that there was abusive minors proven on the laptop, that came from the Israelis. I'm just telling you that. They came to me with that. So I know that. And one of the things that enraged me about the statement from those sleazy intel guys is that they blame the Russians for it. Now, maybe the Russians had a hand in it, but it was the Israelis who were pushing that. Fact. I mean, literally to me. Well, that's such a serious crime that I think it's just common sense that if there was evidence of that.
You think that it's common sense? But I'll tell you what. You know how many people call me a pedophile to this day?
But they were pushing that so hard, but there was so much pressure never to criticize Israel in any way that they were just like, it's the Russians. It's the Russians. They're the ones penetrating our political system. It's like, you lie. Everyone knows what's actually happening. This was my perspective, and it drove me insane. And by the way, I didn't say that on Fox News. I'll admit it. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. You're right. I just want to say I was part of the problem also, but I knew it.
But that's the thing, Tucker.
Yeah, I agree.
So Tucker did not give any proof or receipts for this claim that it was the Israelis. So take him at his word or don't. I did look to see if Netanyahu or any Israeli official gave a response to these claims. I haven't seen anything yet, but we have got to show you what the comment section thinks about all this. We'll have to show you that after the break. We have got to jump right back into the rundown where we were, just because I've got to show you what the comment section thought. So when we left on the other side of the break, we were talking about how Tucker Carlson had Hunter Biden on his show, and they were talking about the laptop and all the allegations from the laptop and how they had a cordial conversation about it after Tucker was basically the one who was pushing this whole Hunter might be a pedo thing for years. So the comment section was pretty split. So Alpha Steve said Hunter was just a boogeyman. To be honest, he is what MAGA thought Trump was. Very relatable, an average guy who has fought a lot of demons and happens to be from an affluent family. He is the real MAGA. If his last name wasn't Biden, he certainly won me over after that long interview they did. Now, before we move on, that was basically like the one positive comment that I saw. And I tried to look, as much as I could, but a lot of comments were not supportive of Tucker or Hunter and just thought the whole thing was crazy. So I thought this was very interesting. Kenneth said, on just blaming Israel, that's quite a claim from Tucker. Not sure I buy Israel's behind this, but if he has hard evidence, he should put it out there for everyone to evaluate. Serious allegations need serious proof. Totally agree. That's a heck of a thing to say and then not have a single receipt drop for that. At the same time, if he's just coming clean, I don't know. Maybe he's just coming clean. Ben Richards said, this sucks. Paraphrasing. Why are people on the right taking up for this crackhead POS whose dad weaponized the Justice Department and let 20 million illegals walk into the country? I kept POS there because, not POS, crackhead there, because Biden, he kind of now makes a joke of it. He does not seem to be weighed down by his former crack use. He's very open about it, but another criticism. Fergie said, watch 10 minutes of this and had to stop. Disgusting. What a psyop. Another commenter said, I don't trust Hunter Biden with a 1,000,000-foot pole. He's rotten to the core. This Hunter, I'm reformed Biden persona is just another manipulation tactic the deep state is using to confuse people. This is where being a sociopath comes in handy. You can mold your narrative and public persona without any guilt or shame. You just blow around wherever the wind and money takes you. Honestly, I don't know if this is real or not. I don't know if this is a game or a spectacle or not. Tucker Carlson clearly seems to be the one who has totally flipped. But that's what I was saying about Nancy Mace. Nancy Mace, 5 years ago, you're singing the completely opposite tune as now. So people are allowed to change, but we're seeing some really weird swings. Even Trump, really weird swing from what he said versus what he did. So I don't know. Will, before we move on, what do you make of all this?
I think I like the fact that Tucker and Biden came together to talk.
I do too, actually.
I feel like that needs to happen more. People on the right and people on the left just be open about things and try to put the country first instead of your own ideals or whatever. Who's ever paying you to say whatever? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think Nancy Mace, she's probably getting paid to say a lot of crazy stuff, or she's being polarizing to make a run for a bigger office position. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Because the one that Lindsey Graham's sister is up for, she technically wanted to throw her hat in the ring for that and then kind of rescinded it once it was clear that they were going to go for her. because Lindsay's staff is basically going to be probably making all the decisions. But at the same time, I was literally wondering, is she just trying to get in the ring and say, oh, I can be splashy and, problematic or non-problematic, however you look at it as well. Right. I can be splashy and controversial, I will say. I'll be controversial as well. I will never be upset about people being cordial. Tucker and Hunter, like all day long. Anything that just, because I'm just so sick of the fighting.
I think we need more of that for sure.
Facts. Okay, so that was your rundown. Let me know what you think about it, because that is going to sum this bad boy up. In the meantime, before we go on to